What is up, everybody? Dodgers Nation, welcome to Dodgers Territory. We welcome you in. Those of you that were watching Foul Territory, guess what? We have our own page, Clint Pasillas, Alanna Rizzo. Like it, subscribe to it. You can get it anywhere you find your podcasts, of course, on YouTube TV as well. What do you say, Clint? Tube in?
Tube in. You guys got to hit that subscribe button, mash that thumbs up while you guys come into the show. It helps boost us in the algorithm on the YouTubes.
All right. And by the way, Mark Pryor, Dodgers pitching coach, is going to be joining the program today in just a moment. So get those questions into the chat, load them up for Mark Pryor. We'll ask him all things pitching and other things as well. How about we get to the big ticket? All right, Clint, you have been singing the praises of Miguel Rojas. Miguel Rojas was on the show last week, but it is time to sing the praises as well for Gavin Lux. It appears, my friend, that he is starting to heat up offensively. Do you think he's turning the page?
I'd say yes, he's turning the page. I think he's still got a decent way to go before he gets to where he wants to be, where the team needs him to be. If the bar was really low, he's jumping over that bar. He is moving the bar up, but with all of the kind of accolades we are throwing at him, he's still hitting just 226 in the month of May. OPS is coming up, fueled by a few extra base hits, but hitting the ball harder, getting the ball off the ground a little bit. So there is some things that you like to see, that we're liking seeing out of Gavin Lux so far.
And I do like the conversation that you and I had with Miguel Rojas about having to play under pressure. Miggy's at a very different part of his career. Gavin Lux is still trying to prove himself. So perhaps that weight is lifting a little bit. Maybe there's a conversation like, hey, see ball, hit ball. Don't worry so much about what's going on. Is it sometimes just getting back to the basics?
It really is. I think, as much crap as the team maybe took when they decided to pull the plug on Gavin Lux at shortstop, move him back to second base and kind of get him to a more familiar spot, role, position that he was in. I think that did go a long way in getting his brain back to what made him successful when he was healthy in 22 and parts of 21 and all that. Just go play ball, like you said, see ball, hit ball, and the talent is there. This kid has never failed anywhere before, so just still going to take time. We did miss an entire season with that knee injury.
Oh, I don't think anybody forgot. I think we keep bringing it up, this poor kid. But you know what? When your offense slumps, as long as your defense doesn't slump, then you're doing okay. And he's really been a stabilizing force as far as defense is concerned. This defense obviously leads Major League Baseball in defensive runs saved. So, hey, you know what? If the bat's not always working, just make sure, Clint, that the glove is.
Yep. And he's been phenomenal with the glove, by the way. Just like you drew it up, I think we have a graphic coming up on the screen here, but how good has Gavin Lux been at second base, along with, as everybody predicted, as everybody expected, Max Muncy defensively at third base. But the SIS Fielding Bible or whatever it is, they dropped the leaders in defensive runs saved so far, and Gavin Lux, one of the top contributors to the list for the Los Angeles Dodgers when it comes to DRS so far this season. He looks really good, looks really comfortable at second base, and I'm sure that goes a long way for him as well.
Well, we're going to continue to talk about the Gavins here, not only Gavin Lux, but Gavin Stone. And he's been, a nice rotational piece. You never know exactly what you're going to get from some of these younger arms, but I like what Gavin has done so far. What's your takeaway?
Stone is arguably a savior for this team so far, because he was somebody that was off the radar, not really off the radar, but if things were going to have to have gone wrong, it's an old Simpsons quote of, one misfortune that could happen, but 9 misfortunes. All the injuries happen. Emmett Sheehan going down with the injury in spring training all of a sudden pushes Gavin Stone to the forefront in that 5th starter role. And he, after 2 rough starts, 8 earned runs over his first 2 outings, he has been phenomenal. 2.0 ERA over his last 36 innings and 6 starts on the year, 4-1 with a 3.27 ERA. I don't know where this team would be without this dude, because we still didn't have Walker Buehler at the time. Of course, the royal we here being the Dodgers, but they still don't have Kershaw. They still don't have Dustin May. You needed this guy, and he has stepped up, and been massive for the brand and for Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor.
Yeah, speaking of Mark Pryor, why don't we ask the Dodgers pitching coach what he thinks the value of Gavin Stone is? Joining us now on Dodgers territory. Mark, great to be with you. And thank you, honestly, for taking the time to be with Clint and I here. What has Gavin Stone meant to this Dodgers rotation?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hit it on the head. I mean, he's been great for us. I mean, he's definitely stepped in and picked up. Not only has he had quality outings, he's gone deep into games, multiple times, 6, 7 innings. I think his outing against the Padres, I believe it was a few weeks ago at home, getting into the seventh, carrying a no hitter deep into that game, into the fifth or sixth inning. It's been impressive, and Gavin, to his credit, last year, obviously from a performance standpoint, was a little rough. He had a big minor league year the previous year, and then came up last year for some spot starts, and it wasn't a natural progression of hey, he had a good minor league outings, and then he came up and he got roughed up. And to his credit, he kind of reinvented himself and really mastered, being able to have a 4 or 5 pitch mix, command the bottom of the strike zone, and, basically chew through hitters when his stuff's on. And I think that's what you've seen in the last 3, 4 starts, is somebody who, attacks hitters, balls moving left and right. Occasionally he'll go up on a guy. But he gets outs, and I think he's been great for us, and he's got a great demeanor, and a lot of work that he put into this offseason showed up in spring training. And I know, there's been a lot of injuries, and you referenced, his opportunity. But Gavin's been throwing the ball extremely well all year. I mean, he had a very dominant spring, and he was in the hunt for that last spot, whether those injuries happened or not, because we feel very confident in the way he can throw the ball.
Mark, we know last year during spring training, Stoner striking out the world. I think he had 14 Ks in like half an inning or whatever. He was phenomenal, but things did not quite click for him when he did make his major league debut, kind of relying on that changeup. But like you mentioned, changed a little bit of the pitch mix, added some weight, some good weight to keep the velo going deep into the game. What do you think has stood out most for him when it comes to, I wouldn't call it a resurgence, but just finally seeing what the whole organization expected out of him?
Yes, and I think that's one of the things that you touched on is kind of when we have guys who have particularly like one elite pitch or a pitch that they can lean on in the minor leagues and get a lot of swing and miss, and it projects to be plus pitch. You get to the big leagues, sometimes that doesn't always translate if that's the only thing that you can get in the strike zone. And with Gavin, he had the changeup. But it was about getting into proper counts, being able to have count leverage and actually get to use that pitch to convert outs. And I think when you get into, big league hitters and big league game planning and the incredible, talent that these guys have, they'll just wait you out. And I think that was a little bit of his, you know, a little bit of his challenge last year is like, how do I get into counts without exposing my best pitch? I might get swing and miss on that first one, or I might get, a foul ball is like, but, getting it 2 and 3 times in a row, it's just not something that happens up here very often. So you got to be able to hide your best pitch. You got to be able to sequence and move the ball around. And I think that's what is basically what has allowed him to do different things. He kind of brought back a sinker that he threw more in college that he hadn't thrown in the minor leagues. He's playing a lot of East-West games with these teams, and they're basically trying to keep hitters caught in between pitches. And then you add on his resurgence of his changeup, and it's gotten back to the profile that it was in the minor leagues with a lot of depth. But he doesn't have to use it early in counts, and so he can hide it and use it, late in counts. And I think that's the ability of showing how he can pitch, and I think his pitch ability has a skill that has really developed over the last, 12 months. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the adversity that he faced last year. But we want to look at performance and judge whether it's a successful year or a poor year. I think sometimes in the development cycle and the development curve, we can look at poor performances as a successful development year. And I think that's case in point, I think with Gavin, I think that's what you're looking at. A guy who came up, had some challenges, but got the experience of how to slow his heartbeat down, how not to try to go for swing and miss, and maybe just live at the bottom of the strike zone with movement and get contact, weak contact, and just get outs. Because ultimately, yeah, we all love swing and miss. That's extremely important in the game today. But so is just getting weak contact and getting outs as a starter and being able to get deep into ball games, which saves our bullpen, which collectively as a staff puts us in a better position.
I think you've mentioned it too when you're talking about pitchability, Mark, and there's a difference between pitching and throwing. And Walker Buehler's been back now for 2 starts since not having thrown for 2 years, coming off his second TJ surgery. Is he starting to pitch again? Is he throwing? How many outings do you need to see him to know that he's back?
Yeah, I mean it's a great case study for guys who've been out of the game for a long time. I think we see it flashes at times, and then I think you see the inconsistency of the execution, the movement of the pitches, as well as you just again. I think another example of the San Diego game last week is just being behind in counts. When guys like Tatis and Cronenworth are in positive and even counts for themselves, they can kind of lock in on one pitch, and whether that's 98, or whether it's, a nasty slider, if they can sit on something and try to get their swing off, it can prove to be dangerous. And so, again, with Walker, it's about putting himself in position. What made Walker really effective, early in his career was his ability to get into counts and then be able to use multiple pitches and keep them guessing. Right now, I think he's finding himself behind in counts. He's forced to throw the ball a little bit more in the middle of the plate. And right now, it's just been a challenge for him. But I think also, but being gone for 2 years, and even if you're gone for spring training, or you miss a significant time during the year, it's really hard sometimes to, go through a rehab outing, go into it, with, hey, I'm trying to get myself healthy. And then you all of a sudden get parachuted into the middle of the season where guys are in full, they're in full, mode of, they've been playing, they got 150 at bats. They're not skipping a beat, whether like spring training where it's a more of everybody kind of is getting ready for the season at the same time. And so the hitters are behind, the pitchers are behind. He's in a situation where he's a little bit behind, hasn't played in 2 years, and these guys are in full swing of their season. So I expect him to come out of it, but he's going to have to pitch. He's going to have to execute some pitches. He's going to have to get into the strike zone a little bit more consistently. And put the hitters on defense mode versus him putting himself on and being in a defensive situation where he has to come and deliver a pitch that, like I said, if it's in middle, these guys are going to, tee off.
So I got a question here. We're talking about another one of the guys who's growing into the season, growing into Major League pitching. Of course, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Question from Carnivorous Lunar Activity, great name, here in the chat. How close, in your opinion, is Yamamoto to peaking as a big leaguer?
Oh, good. That's a good. I mean, it's a fair question. I don't know if I know the answer to that. I think what we are seeing him trending very well, trending up. And I think he's another example of, early on in his first couple of outings, you see what happens when you can't command the baseball as effectively as he wanted to. And I think some of that is, him getting obviously used to Major League Baseball, him understanding, not having a familiarity with all the hitters. But early on, he was leaving a lot of pitches in the middle of the plate, and he was taking on some serious damage. And I think since he's, kind of really focused in on making sure when he misses, he's missing in the right spots, and when he's going away, it's away, and going in, it's in. All the messages that you give most pitchers and every pitcher, whether they're in A-ball or the big leagues, he has that ability. He has the ability to command those 3 or 4 pitches of his in the strike zone. It was really about understanding, like, hey, as long as where misses are good misses and we're not missing into the middle of the heart of the plate, he's going to be okay. And he's another one where obviously it's a plus split finger. Teams are not, they're aware of it. They're seeking it, hunting it out, whether it's so they can take it or whether they can, obviously try to hit it. But if he's behind in counts and then he's forced to throw, again, fastballs in counts that he's behind and he's on the defensive, it makes it a little bit more challenging. But I think what you've seen with him is now his ability to throw all 3 pitches in the strike zone, whether that's early or late. I think he's keeping hitters, guessing in between pitches, between speeds, whether he's slowing them down with a curveball split or he's, throwing a fastball down in the knees, early in counts. I think that's what's making his pitch mix extremely effective. And then he sprinkles in, some sliders and some cutters in there to keep everybody honest. So I think he's still, I still think he's trending in the right direction. I think over the next, half a season, once he's been around the league, he has a better familiarity with hitters. I think you're going to see a guy who feels even more convicted in his stuff. And I think you'll see more of these performances where he's going 6 or 7 innings and maybe it's a run and it's a few hits here or there. But he's been extremely fun to watch. The way he works, the way he goes about it, it's pretty exciting.
Have you been able to work at all pitching wise with Shohei Ohtani yet, Mark? Obviously, I know he's not pitching this year, but how much have you worked with him so far?
Not much. I've been more just a fan like everybody else, just watching him do some pretty fun things and hit the ball really hard. And fortunately, we don't have to game plan against him anymore and try to get him out, so that's a good thing. But he's 5-6 weeks into his throwing program. As many people know, obviously the beginning of Tommy John throwing is somewhat uneventful. It's 60 feet and 60 throws. It's just kind of a long, arduous process. But I think as the summer goes and we start getting into some more throwing that resembles what he will actually look like throwing a baseball. I think that's obviously when we'll get into some finer things at the pitching and the throw. Again, it's a unique situation. He's hitting, so he spends a lot of time obviously preparing for that side of the baseball, and then at the end where he's concurrently trying to rehab. So it's unique where he's kind of being pulled in 2 different directions. But he's on the fringes of listening to what we talk about with our pitchers and how we approach things. How we approach things with the delivery, some throws. He's obviously been kind of a mentor and advisor for Yamamoto too as well. So, he's helping that process. So I think he's hearing a lot of the things, but as far as our intimate involvement right now, it hasn't been too deep. But I think as the summer goes and we start progressing in the long toss program and onto the mound, you'll see us obviously have a few more conversations as far as what he's doing and how he's doing it, and hopefully put us in a better position to leap forward to next year.
Guys, of course, we are hanging out with Dodgers pitching coach Mark Prior. Great stuff from you, Mark. This has been fun so far. I got another question from the chat here popping up. Nando390, another one of the great names, friend here on the channel. Mr. Prior, will we see Dustin May this year, and will it be in a spot starter role out of the bullpen? What's the latest with D May, and what's kind of the organization expecting for him?
Yeah, I think we see D May in some capacity this year. He's throwing bullpens. Right now, and when and where, I think that's obviously a big kind of a TBD right now. And whether it's a starter, whether it's a spot starter, whether it's some sort of, relieving long relief role, this is kind of one of our, just general philosophies. We know where we're at right now. We don't know where we're going to be in a couple months. So some of it just depends on what our personnel is and where he's at in his rehab and his health. And as well as he's pitching, I think that obviously plays an important part, especially at that time of season, is what his performance is like. But I do think we see him in some capacity this year. Just we don't know where we're going to be in a couple months, and who's obviously we expect everybody to be healthy, but we also understand that the game is a game of attrition, and we're going through it right now with some of our guys, so. Some of it will be just depending on where we're at with our pitching, but I think we see him in some capacity because, when he's healthy and when he's right, there's no question his stuff as good as anybody's in the game, and I think we expect him to get back fully healthy, and when he does, we'll see where he's at, and he'll fit into the fold where he's needed probably most. But I would see him in some sort of starting type role, or maybe even a long relief type role, maybe initially to kind of reacclimate him. And then we'll see where he's at. He's another one who hasn't obviously pitched a little bit last year, but hasn't pitched a ton over these last few years. So there's going to be a little bit of just kind of getting used to things again and seeing where everything's at and how it's playing.
Mark Prior, always a plethora of information. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us here on Dodgers territory. We love this team. You know that. Take care, and hope to talk to you soon.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Mark Prior, the Dodgers pitching coach, tremendous talent there. Obviously, was known for having the greatest mechanics ever. Could have had a really, really long career before he got hurt. Must be that USC education that comes with Mark Prior, giving us all the goods. Time now, Clint, for Behind the Scenes. And this may seem a little bit crazy, but have the Dodgers already locked up the NL West? They're 7.5 games in the lead.
Listen, you got a 7.5 game lead. This team is playing really, really good baseball, but still not playing its best baseball. We left obviously a lot of meat on the bone there that we could have talked to Mark Pryor with. I would love to get a bottle of booze and talk to Pryor for 3 or 4 hours about pitching. I have a passion when it comes to pitching and Dodgers pitching injuries, but we have guys. This team has guys that they're going to keep coming back. The sort of internal trade deadline that we talked about in our pre-production meeting, they're going to keep getting better, and we're not seeing any sort of advancements, any steps forward from the other teams in the NL West. The Padres riding high, taking 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. Then they go and get swept by the powerhouse Rockies, which is hilarious. D-backs are in there hanging around, lingering around, but they're not the same team so far that we saw last year in the playoffs. I don't know that it's over, but it's feeling pretty close. Like October is the next month of the season after May. Here, it's fun to watch this team dominate and still not be that dominant yet.
Here's my fear when it comes to a 7.5 game lead in a division race on May 16th. And obviously we're talking about this because we can, and it's fun, and we can't wait for people to blow us up that are not Dodgers fans. But the point is, I get a little nervous if you kind of run away with the division so early on in the season. Let's say by the All-Star break, they've got a 15 game lead, and barring an apocalypse, they win the division. It's so difficult to play good baseball at the right time when you're supposed to be doing it in the postseason. So it's like, I almost feel like I wish they'd have a little bit more adversity in the regular season than they do. Not to say that they don't respect all of their opponents, but 3-3 on a road trip, I'm not super excited about that. When we had our show on last week, when we said, or Monday, I should say, that I wanted them to bury the Giants. They won the first 2. They lost the last third, but it was a bullpen game. Let's be honest. It's fine. I don't know, a little bit more adversity. I want them to play the likes of the Phillies and see how they, stack up against them. The Phillies have only played 3 games against an opponent that has a 500 or better record. That was the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves won that series. So I want to see how the Dodgers stack up to the Phillies. I want to see how the Dodgers stack up to some of these other good teams in the National League. And, we know that the Dodgers are going to make the postseason, right? But let's I don't know. I'm not saying that they've locked it up, but I can't imagine a world where the Dodgers don't win the division.
Yeah. Adding on to that before we move on to last licks, I just want to say this is something I've been kind of bitching about, complaining about while talking on this YouTube space, talking Dodgers over the last few years. That was one of the conversations after the 21 or the 2022 team. It's like, just blow it all up. Don't bring anybody back. Go out and win 88 games. Try to make the postseason. Sneak in as a wild card. See what happens. You don't need to always be at the very top, because we've seen it doesn't help teams in baseball anymore to have the best record in baseball, to win their respective divisions or whatever. It doesn't help. If anything, it feels like it hurts. We saw that last year with the Dodgers, saw it with the Orioles, saw it with the Atlanta Braves. I don't know, baseball needs to fix itself, but I would love to see the Dodgers struggle a little bit more. And then we'd have a lot more to complain about here on this show.
Oh, that's the thing. I think we take it for granted. The Dodgers, by the way, go to Philadelphia July 9th to the 11th. They'll be playing the Fightins at Citizens Bank Park at the beginning of July. But the thing is, the Phillies host the Dodgers in July. The thing is, though, it's like I don't want them to struggle, but I also want them to have that fire and that eagerness. It's almost like when the Atlanta Braves back in the day, won the division every single year. And it was like, all right, then they'd start, the season the next year, and Bobby Cox would be like, all right, you get 40 games to dick around, and then we gotta get it going. It's like you almost take for granted how good this team is year in and year out. I just need them to be playing really good baseball at the right time in the postseason when it matters. All right, time now for Last Licks. And I was trying to convince our producer, Jeremy Meyer, that he absolutely needs to adopt this dog. And I realized that Jeremy doesn't live in Southern California, but there are ways to get Jack to Jeremy. Look at this puppy, Clint Pasillas. Jack is a 4-month-old German Shepherd mix. Is that not the cutest guy? I know you guys listening can't see Jack right now, but make sure you check out Dodgers Territory on YouTube TV on the Foul Territory channel later, because my goodness, he's just a cutie pie. He's a German Shepherd mix. He's 4 months old. He's working on potty training. He's getting there. He's working on his commands. He's just a baby. I was born a dog. I identify a dog as a dog, but Mama says I'm just a baby, as my dog's looking at me right now. He's available for adoption through Healing Hounds Rescue. He's healthy. He's eager to learn. He needs an active family, a fenced yard. Check him out. You can go to Gidry'sGuardian.org. You can check us out on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Jack is such a good boy.
Jack is a ridiculously dapper and handsome dog, right? You have some good ones. You brought some good ones here to the show, but that one is, I might need to get rid of a couple of cats and add a third dog here. Sorry, Mrs. FRB.
Don't say that. Don't say that. All animals deserve a loving home, but Jack is wonderful. All right, we're getting ready to close out our show here on this Thursday afternoon. What do you have coming up on? And we got, before we get to the Red series, what do you have coming up on your program? Thirsty Thursday, bro.
Thirsty Thursday, yes, we will be live at 5:30 on my channel tonight, talking more, 5:30 Pacific time, talking more about your Dodgers. I'm probably going to break down some of the things on my show that we spoke about with Mark Pryor, because again, I'm kind of, I'm riding that rush of talking, nerd talk with Pryor there. But yeah, tube in, All Dodgers here on YouTube, All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas. Hey, that's me here on YouTube. Not 6 p.m. today. It will be 5:30 because we got a Dodger game at 7:10. And it is Shohei Ohtani bobblehead night at Dodger Stadium as the Dodgers welcome the Reds. And this is going to be an absolute shit show at Dodger Stadium tonight. Everybody wants this goddamn bobblehead. The Dodgers also decided to bring a gas tank to an already burning fire by announcing that they have 1,700 extra, I guess they're road, like alternate bobbleheads. Guys, leave your weapons at home. Be nice. Don't tailgate. Just be friendly to the freaking ushers. They can't control.
It's not their fault.
Yeah, it's not their fault. They have a certain allotment. They don't know what they have. These people, they're just doing their damn job. Be nice to people there. Get your bobblehead. Don't choose violence. Be friendly. And if you can't get one, go spend an absurd amount of money on OfferUp or what have you. Not a sponsor, but we'll take the money from them.
Yeah, I'll take the money from eBay too, which a lot of these Ohtani bobbleheads are going to end up on. But again, the ushers and the support staff at Dodger Stadium had no control over when you decided to get there. So be nice to them. Here's one thing I want to take away before we say goodbye on this. Don't let this Red series, Clint, be a trap series. And I say that because they're coming off a 3-3 road trip against two divisional opponents. We've talked about the 7.5 game lead in the NL West. But the Reds are still a Major League Baseball team. So don't use this as a trap series. You're home. You're feeling comfortable. You're sleeping in your own bed, the whole deal. Just dominate, please. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I love it. Yeah. I was worried about that with that Marlins series. Of course, the Dodgers end up giving it to the Marlins when they met them, when they need to do it again. The Reds haven't been as good as some people hoped, but, Dodgers better.
Yeah. All right. Have a good show tonight. All Dodgers, of course. Clint is going to have that tonight, Thirsty Thursday. Good series against the Reds. Clint and I will be back with you on Monday at 12 Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Go Dodgers. We'll see you guys later.
Subscribe.